I want to ask you about Patrick Williams. I've been talking about him a lot this offseason because I believe, Joey, what tour is Patrick Williams on?
He's on the No Excuses Tour coming to a city near you.
That's right.
This October.
That's right. The No Excuses Tour for Patrick Williams is what he's on. It's the year for me where everything is removed from him. The people say, oh, well, DeMar is taking all the shots from him. Well, guess what? He's about to get all that opportunity to get all the shots in the world. Oh, he's kind of playing out of position. Well, guess what? He'll get a chance to play at the 3 as well. He'll get some of that time there. He'll be starting at the 4, but he might get an opportunity. He'll say they put Modest in there. Might get the opportunity to get that at the 3. So all of that is out of the way. He's got his money, all these things. He's got experience now. He's been 5 years in the league, going into 6. Where are you standing on Patrick Williams when you're like, this is the season I want him to have?
Well, I'm going to ask a quick question because I'm curious if Will has any updates. Have we heard anything about Patrick Williams in terms of his injury status? Because that kind of goes into my answer, because I have very high expectations of Patrick Williams. I 100% agree. No more excuses. This is the year that you have to show up, that you have to prove that you are worth the number 4 pick, although we can talk about that because I think a lot of times too many expectations are placed on Patrick Williams for that reason. But this is it. Like, this is Pat's year. No more excuses. This is your year to have the breakout season that we've all been waiting for. But is he healthy? So, Will, is he healthy? Because everyone else, we heard from AK and some of the press conferences, right? Lonzo's cleared to do everything now. Zach's been cleared to do everything now. But Patrick Williams, he was a little wishy-washy on, and I don't know if that's just because he didn't have the details at the time, but what's sort of the latest on him?
So we sat down with Pat in Vegas at Summer League on July 13th, and we asked him that very question. Here's what he had to say. What have you been up to this summer? Rehab, that's pretty much it. Trying to get back to 100%, making sure the foot is not anything to worry about during the season. How are you physically? I'm pretty good. I'm running and jumping now. No pain, no swelling. So it's all just a matter of getting my legs back under me. What was the rehab timeline now compared to what it was supposed to be? In the beginning, they told me 4 to 6 months. I believe we're at 4.5 going on 5 now. The bone is fully healed, but that rehab process is pretty much just resting, making sure that I'm getting enough rest on that foot, going over some pattern things, how you run, how you walk, some preventative things. But for the most part, it's just letting the bone rest, letting the body do what it does. Do you expect to be ready for training camp? For sure. So that's what we know. I think clearly on the mend, but also not fully recovered yet. I mean, that was a month and a half ago, and right now we are at the 6 month. I think we're actually exactly 6 months. I think it was March 4th was the surgery, and today's September 4th. So exactly 6 months on a 4 to 6 month timeline. He should be good. Maybe I can do some digging on that one, but yeah, I think he's going to be ready to go. I don't think the Bulls would have signed him to this big deal if they had any reservations about that. Clearly not great, coming off of surgery to get a big deal like that, but I think the Bulls are confident that he is going to be a big piece of what they're building here. What do you think of the contract, though? I mean, do you feel like that was good value? Obviously, a big number, $90 million for a guy that averages 10 points a game and hasn't improved in his scoring category at all. But obviously, we know there's more to the game than 10 points per game.
Yeah, I thought the contract was fine, and some people kind of push back on me on that. I mean, you look at what other guys, around his skill set are getting in the league, and you see that it's not really a bad deal at all, especially given the fact that, the salary cap is only going to continue to increase year over year. I think it's 18 million, right, throughout the 5 years flat. I think by the end of that deal, it's going to look very favorable to the Bulls. It'll probably be near where the mid-level exception is going to be around that time. 5 years from now, what's that going to look like? So, I mean, it's risky, right? Because he's coming off an injury. He hasn't really progressed much since his rookie season, but part of that is due to the fact that he's had 2 major injuries. So I get that there's some skepticism around the contract itself and giving $90 million to Patrick Williams. But you look at a guy like Jaden McDaniels, who I mean, Jaden McDaniels is a better player than Patrick Williams, at least at this point in time anyway, right? He brings a lot more defensively, obviously healthy, more flashes offensively as well. But I guess I'm just trying to compare it to, you see what Jaden McDaniels got, and it's like, okay, well, Patrick Williams got $90 million over 5 years. He's 23 years old. That's going to pay him through the peak of his prime. It's also tradable down the line because he's still going to be in the peak of his prime if you need to pivot. So I don't really have any issues with the contract. And I still think that there's a lot of potential from Pat. Like I said, it's a no excuses season, but you can't really put a price tag. I mean, you can, right? Literally you can, but you can, like, for 3-and-D type players, someone like Patrick Williams and his skill set, that's valued and coveted in this league, and you have to pay up for it. So I was fine with the contract.
That's exactly what I've been saying about it too, is just like, even if he doesn't improve at all, he's a very good 3-and-D player. Sure. And that you're paying him, like you said, Jamal, mid-level exception type money. And you brought up Jaden McDaniels. He signed a 5-year, $131 million deal. So 26.2 average compared to Pat's 18. So obviously, like you said, I think Jaden at this point is a better player, more productive on both ends. But, you know, $8 million a year, is that the difference? Maybe for a younger player?
Maybe. Jamal, you said with Patrick Williams you had high expectations. Can you expound on that a little bit? Like, what do you mean when you say high expectations for a guy like Patrick Williams?
I mean, I need to see that Pat's going to be one of the Bulls' primary scoring options going into this season, right? And again, a lot of it depends on Zach and Vooch. If Zach and Vooch are both traded, Patrick Williams should be one of the Bulls' primary scoring options, right? I want to see that from him. I want to see him putting up, 16, 17 points a game minimum. I'd love to see more, obviously, but I don't want to have, insane expectations for the guy. And I want him to see that he's one of the better players, one of the best players on the Bulls anyway, from a defensive standpoint. I don't expect him to be an all-star. I think that's unrealistic, but getting to that level where you can say, okay, this guy maybe does have all-star potential, because I think when he was first drafted, everyone was like, oh yeah, everyone always said, the future, the next Kawhi 2.0, which was never really fair to put that kind of comparison on him to begin with. But the expectation at the time was, yeah, we could see this guy being a future all-star. I think if we can see that coming from Patrick Williams, like we saw from Kobe White last season, where it's like, okay, he's making strides in the right direction. He's, on that path to being close to a top 10 most improved player of the year candidate. That, to me, are the level of expectations that I have on Patrick Williams. I know they're high, but like you said, no more excuses. You're 23 years old. You just got a big contract, and you're going to have a lot of opportunity this year. So make it work. Make it.
We all silly like the mayor.